And joining us here on YouTube. You guys, it's another beautiful, gorgeous day. We made it through the night, right? So it is another beautiful day, and we are back here with another episode. This is your wedding series. We are planning your wedding from starting at age 14 years old. Now, listen, I know nobody gets married at 14 years old these days. That's just crazy. But we will be fast forwarding to when you get engaged. So that means that we won't be staying at age 14. We were going to be quickly fast forwarding through these episodes in order to get to what it's going to be like to start planning your wedding series itself. But these portions that are before you get engaged, they're going to help you. They are going to strengthen your marriages. You're going to strengthen your adulthood. They are going to make you a stronger person. Okay. So what is a wedding series? Wedding series, your wedding series. It's planning your wedding. It's also telling your love story through a series of wedding events. Those events are going to include the proposal, the bridesmaids proposal when you ask them, groomsmen's proposal. It's going to also include your engagement photos, engagement party if you have a party. Not everybody has a party. Not everybody has all of these events that we've been talking about, and some people even add on to those events. It's going to be dress shopping or gown shopping, like I like to call it, because I like ball gowns. It is also your bachelorette, your bachelor, your hen do party if you're from a different country, parts of the world that's not here in America. And then we also have the rehearsal dinner, the rehearsal and wedding shower, bridal shower. Not everybody has all these. Remember, I'm just rambling off all of the wedding events. And now some people do have everything. And then you have the get ready with me before the wedding kicks off on the wedding day, as well as obviously the wedding ceremony and the wedding reception. There are other events like the oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. The welcome party. Sometimes people do a welcome party for guests who don't live where they live. And so they'll have also a welcome party as well. And they'll throw a little something for them to say, hey, so glad that you made it. And then some people have an after party for the same reason, to say goodbye to all the people that are now going to be heading back home. So yeah, we are going to jump right in here. Let me pull up my notes. Today is episode 5 of your wedding series. Anyone that's taking notes on this, you got your notebook out, you're ready for these planning tips. This is an exciting way to plan your wedding, is with someone actually here that can answer questions with you, alongside you as you are planning. Okay, so once again, this is your wedding series, episode 5, and we're talking about living with parents. This time we're speaking about the groom's perspective. So this is going to be the groom's perspective. Last time we were talking about the bride, and some things are going to overlap, and that's okay. But we are going to be talking about the groom's perspective. All right, so here we go. The purpose of this particular episode is to help men to be more equipped, to be stronger as husbands, to be more prepared to be a husband. And some preparation is better than zero preparation. So at this point of the video, the episodes, we're talking about living with parents after college. So instead of moving out after high school or college, you're going to stay living with your parents. Remember, this is just some advice. Why am I even here? Well, as your content creator, I provide affordable videography for all of your wedding series. So all of those wedding events that we talked about in the opener, these events, I am a wedding content creator. And so I provide affordable videography for all of those events so that you and your guests can be hands-free. We're living in a world where everybody is creating content on their phone. Everybody wants to take a picture. Everybody wants to take a video. People even think that they want to live stream everybody else's event, right? Because they have a phone in their hand. So they're like, I can do it, and then I'll share it with my friend. And that's a really great idea. but now your friend can't see you. They can't see your face when they're at the event. And that's not good if everybody's holding up a phone. So as your content creator, what I do is that I'm your personal paparazzi, and I am taking the photos, I'm taking the videos, and then that way you don't have to worry about it. I have all the content in my hands. So lights, camera, action. Let's start this show and watch your love story unfold. Remember, this is advice. You don't have to take it if you don't want it. Okay. So we are talking about episode 5 of your wedding series and living at home with your parents after school, after graduating high school or after graduating college. This is the groom's perspective. We've already done the bride's perspective. And like I said, the purpose of the video is so that when you are getting to this age in your life, this phase of your life, it's going to help you to be more prepared for the next phase in your life, which hopefully you're watching this because you want to be married, you want to become a husband, you want to propose, okay? You want to have a wedding. So guys, let's just jump in. There's a lot to it. Let's jump in. We are talking about part 1. I do want to say that we did cover a lot of these in a previous episode that had to do with like 14-year-old you, and now we're talking more about like you're about 22, anywhere from 18 to 22 years old, and like this is more of like that phase of after high school or after college. So we're speaking to you at that age in this particular video, okay? And so in part 1, why would you want to stay with parents? Like, why would you even want to stay with your parents? Obvious one is financial reasons. You can save on rent and bills and you don't have to pay for all that stuff. But it doesn't mean that you're not still giving your parents some kind of money to stay there, building up that responsibility of every month paying someone for your living roof over your head. Okay, so you still are going to be paying for something. Obviously, you've got your car note, you've got your car insurance, you've got gas for your car, and you've got your cell phone bill. That's your own personal expense. But then you've got the extra personal expense, which is having a roof over your head. So you are going to give your parents something, right? Obviously, when we were talking about 14-year-old you weren't worried about helping your parents pay for rent at 14-year-old you. Now at 16, you could have been thinking about it. Well, once you become an adult and you're done with high school, you're done with college, you should be going ahead and putting aside money every month to pay for a roof over your head. So if your parents is allowing you to still stay there, and guys, it doesn't just have to be your parents. Maybe you have grandparents, maybe you have an aunt or uncle who's willing to allow you to stay with them, and you can be able to save money during this time, okay? This is also a great time to have your support system. You're building support, by having your parents around still. They can instill a lot of wisdom into you about being a husband, about being a parent. So you are still learning those skills from them that you were learning at 14 years old. You're just now continuing it, okay? It didn't go away. You didn't just be like, well, I learned it all when I was younger. I can move on now to my adult years and start doing other crazy things that really shouldn't be a part of your life. So you're just having that support from them as well. Let's see, what else do we have? This is also a good time to focus on developing yourself, developing who you are as a person, developing who you want to be as a father figure, and who you want to be to your wife, okay? Who you want to be to your coworkers. This is a good time for you to start building those skills, journaling, looking at self-development, okay? Just becoming a stronger human being. It's important that you realize you're not a little boy anymore, okay? That you are now a man. So it's important to start walking in that, okay? Now we are at part 2, and we're talking about financial planning for marriage. So financial planning for marriage. It's a little different than financial planning for if you wanted to just move out right away, where you immediately are going to have like rent, roommates, you're learning how to deal with them. you know, if you went ahead and bought a house when you were 18 or 22, you'd have a mortgage right away by yourself. You don't have a family yet. Like I said, this is all before you have a family, before you do the proposal. Okay. So we are talking about financial preparation. And this is going to be budgeting and saving, especially opening up a savings account that's going to be utilized for the wedding, for marriage. Okay. So you are going to be saving for the house. Remember, you're the one that's going to be preparing a house for you guys to live in, either a home or a apartment. If you guys are going to rent a condominium, or if you're going to rent a home, you wanted to start saving at age 16 when you started working that job. I know in some cities and states, people are working at even younger, like 14, which is interesting. It wasn't like that back where I grew up. So I do know that in some parts, though, that you can work at 14. So whatever that age is that you started working, you are going to be saving money. Okay, so whatever age that you started working, you are going to be saving money, right? So you want to make sure that you're saving money towards a house. You're saving money towards your marriage, right? Let's continue. All right, so now you're learning how to create a monthly budget during this part. During this part where you are building up your financial stability, you're learning how to build a budget. You're learning how to budget your finances. Remember, you were observing these things when you were like 14 years old from your parents, like from 14 to 18, in those high school years, you were observing what it's like to budget, right? You're watching them do their accounting books, or going with them whenever they meet with their accountant and things like that. Now that you are, you know, after high school and after college, you're going to start budgeting your own finances. You're going to be working. So now you're going to have money coming in, and then you're going to be budgeting what's going out. And then you're also going to be putting aside a special savings account that's just for like wedding costs. And for you, that's going to be the house, the tuxedo, your shoes, and any of the other expenses that we're going to be talking about later when it comes to the groom. But the main thing is saving for either the house or for being able to pay for rent. You don't want to get into the habit of living check to check. If you're getting into the habit of living check to check during this time before the marriage, it's going to be really hard to break out of that after the marriage. Now you've got to go to financial courses and things like that when you've already gotten married, and it's going to be so much harder to learn how to save when you've been a spender for all of these younger years. Okay, so just remember, guys, this part of the planning is not everyone's favorite. This is part of the planning that people constantly skip. Okay, this is part of the planning that people don't think about. They are thinking about at this age, oh, I gotta find a lady, I gotta find a lady. And they're not thinking about marrying her all the time. You know why they're thinking about finding a lady. And that should not be the focus in your life during this part of your life. You're wasting a lot of time and a lot of good years on nonsense. Okay, when you should, I'm not saying that you have to, but you should be focused on building a future. And I've even heard people say, like, no, like, it's okay, we can just continue to date or live with each other, which is also a big no. That's why we're talking about living with parents, not living with roommates, not living with your girlfriend and all that stuff. But we're going to talk about dating for marriage later. But you'll hear some people say, like, oh, like, we're just not ready, we don't have the money for a wedding, but yet they're living together. That makes no sense. That makes zero sense. You skipped so many steps, and that's why now you may never get married. I've met people who never get married, even though that's what they wanted to do at some point, especially the lady at some point, and yet you fall into this trap of living together, and then now you never ever get married because you were playing house. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm getting off track. We're talking about these things later on, so we don't want to do that. This is the next point to put in your notes, and that is building credit. When you build credit, this is going to allow you to be able to afford the house that you really, really want, or even rent the house that you really, really want, or the apartment that you really, really want. You're not stuck in this like, well, I don't have enough credit, I didn't save enough money and all these things. I'm telling you guys, if you sit down and do the math, even at making about $15 to $20 an hour starting at 16 years old, just sit down and do the math for it. And at 16, you don't have any real expenses. You're living with your parents. They're paying for everything. You're still in high school. So for 2 whole years, you could save that money. Now, you may have some parents that are like, you know what, we're getting you a car and we want you to pay for the car note. We want you to pay for the insurance, but we're going to buy the car, like the down payment, but you're going to have to pay for the monthly insurance. You're going to have to pay for the monthly car note, and you're going to pay for the gas. Some parents would do that to you. Not all, but some, because maybe they can't afford your car and their cars. Okay. So they will say, okay, you're going to have to pay for that. So at 16, you may have to start budgeting for that as well, right? That's an expense, but you still can save. You can still save. And when you're done with college, you want to make sure that you're paying down your debt. If you got into debt during college years, you want to also be using this time to pay off that debt. You don't want that debt rolling into your marriage years. Okay, grooms? Okay, men? Understand that you don't want that rolling into your marriage years, okay? This is the time when you're also planning for future expenses when we're talking about budgeting finances. And that includes planning for the wedding. We've mentioned it, and that is for you, groom, planning for the house. Now, I also want you to start researching what it's like to have a wedding and wedding costs. I just want you to start getting figures and understanding as well. So not just the bride is doing that on her own while she's still in her single years, right? Before she even knows you, even met you, you guys don't even know each other at this point. You are also, as the man, going to start looking at expenses of weddings, because this gives you a chance to know what is like out there. What exactly is being like paid for. You're going to meet someone that's going to want all of these events, like an engagement party, engagement photo shoot. So you're going to be looking at those costs. What is it like to have a bachelor party? Maybe your groomsmate can't pay for it all. So you're going to be looking at like cost of hotels and cost of traveling on an airplane, cost of food for your bachelor party. Like I said, you're not trying to plan it all right now. You're just getting ideas of what it would cost to have these things for your, when they get to that phase in your life, right? So that way, when it's time, you're not like, oh my gosh, everything is just so expensive. Like, I had no idea. This way, you will have some idea prior to the actual time when it becomes, like I said, your phase in your life to start preparing for your wedding. You're planning and prepping now before we even get to being engaged. When we talk about finances, we are also talking about prioritizing short-term and long-term goals. So you should have some form of goals, some form of aspirations. What do you want to do with your life as a human being? Okay. Do you want to have a good job? Do you want to have a career? A career is so different from a job, man. So what is it that you are looking for to do in your life? And if you have goals that you're trying to achieve that cost money, be looking at how much they cost and how you can like fit those into your budget. Now, this is not the time to go spending all of your money on hobbies just because you live at home with your parents. We have met people that never moved out. They live at home with their parents, but yet they have no money. How is that even possible? How is that literally even possible? How do you live at home with your parents and you have no money? And you've been working since you were 16, and now you're like 22 or 25 years old, and yet you don't have a dime to your name. And it's because you were throwing all your money out. You weren't budgeting. You weren't seeing what you were bringing in and then how much you were spending. It's important to learn how to adjust along the way when things get like tight as well. Okay, because things will get tight. The cost of living does not add up to how much we're making in our wages. So it's important to understand that because of that, you've got to learn how to adjust along the way. We are now at developing we're in part 3, which is going to be developing life skills, house management, learning how to mow that lawn, guys. Remember, we were talking about observing these things before, but now you know how to do them, and you know how to do them well. You know how to mow the lawn, you know how to meal prep, you know how to get in there and like help your parents with things else. You're not just observing your parents do these things like you did when it was 14-year-old you. Now we're talking about after high school, after college men, and now you're getting out there and you're actually doing those things. Your parents can trust you to hold a hammer, okay? They can trust you to help with redoing the roof. They can trust you with painting the house, okay? You are doing these things and putting them into actual practice during this stage, okay? You're also helping to babysit and stuff like that. Like I said, like your younger siblings, if you have any. If you don't have any, you are taking the time to volunteer at like your church where they have the baby nursery or they have the children's nursery, and you're asking, hey, can I volunteer? You're also asking if you can volunteer at like the coffee station as well at your church. Maybe they have a coffee station, and just trying to be more of a giver, trying to be more of a helpmate at this stage. This is the point of, you're not getting paid for those things, right? You're not being paid for any of that stuff. We're not talking about the job anymore. We're talking about just becoming a good helpmate, helping with household management, helping with the household schedule. You're not just sitting back and, well, you know what, when I get married, my wife is going to do all those things anyway, so I don't need to worry about it. And then I'm just going to hire somebody to do all the stuff that I don't want to do, like the house maintenance and the car maintenance. And that's fine. If that's the type of man that you are, you don't need to take any of this advice. You don't need to do any of that. But at least be starting to research who's your good mechanic, because they're not all great. They're swindlers. Who's your good painter? Who's your good plumber? There's a lot of people out there that will take you for your money. They will put a roof on your house and it'll blow away the next day. Okay. So make sure that if you are that kind of guy that's going to take the time out to do those things, like fixing the toilet, fixing the roof, fixing the car, then that you take the time out to research and have on your like speed dial who's going to be my people that I know are going to do it and do it right and aren't going to like take me for all my money, right? So it's important to sit down and start researching that stuff. Remember that we also talked about cooking, meal prep, as well as problem-solving skills, conflict, things of that nature. So don't forget that we are still developing those in this phase of our life so that we are better prepared for when it's time for marriage. Part 4 has to do again with our emotional intelligence, our emotional readiness. Okay. And so we do want to make sure that we are being an empathetic listener, an active listener. You guys will hear me say this, and it's very important that people are seen and people are heard, whether that be your coworkers, your family members, your wife, obviously, and your children. Your children also want to be seen and heard. They love to talk. And I can tell you right now, like, I've taken care of a lot of little ones, and especially my little niece, and she would say, Auntie, you're the only one that listens to me. You're the only one that, like, when I'm talking, you pay attention, you look at me, and like you talk back with me. And that really warmed my heart when she told me that, because I do pride myself in being a good listener. I do. I do take pride in it, guys. I have to admit, because I know that people want to be seen. I know that people want to be heard. I know that it's a part of my makeup that I love about myself, is that I want to be seen. I want to be heard as well. And so take the time out to learn how to be an active listener. When someone is speaking, listen to what they have to say and then respond to what they said, even if it's a nod or just say, something. You just don't go on with your thought of whatever's in your head, waiting to speak, but like you weren't really listening to them at all. And then parents, don't just ignore your children when they're talking. So this is the time for you, like when you are babysitting or talking to other people, that like when they're talking, you're not just tuning them out. I know that my husband was saying, like, at his job, there was one of the guys that would put on his dad ears, and it meant that they could tell in the office when he just wasn't even like listening. He wasn't even hearing what they had to say. So you don't want that to be you, okay? You want to take this time right now in this phase of your life to listen. Listen to your friends, listen to family members, listen to coworkers, and especially when you have really, really small people around you, like children, listen to what they are saying. And babies too. Like, so that's why I said, like, children, and I mean, like, small people, like children and babies, because they have a lot to say, and some of the things they say is like amazing. I have to admit, like, I like having conversations with them, because like it's a lot of fun. It's really, really great getting to hear like how their mind works with certain things in life, and watching it, as well as hearing how things work for them in life and the things that they've observed. So you never know, you can learn a thing or two from children and babies as well, that are going to help you with moving forward with having your own children and your own family later on down the road. Guys, we are now already in part 5. Oh my goodness, preparing for the marriage and the wedding. All right, I know all of this has been about that, but this step is, you guys, this phase of your life is really, really preparing for that. And I can't stress it enough. So understanding wedding logistics. Okay, I know, men. I know. If you're taking notes, understanding wedding logistics. What is happening? Why do you need to care about that? It's important that you're not just in the clouds, that you're not just following, like being led by the nose for all of this wedding stuff and having no idea about any of the wedding events or any of the wedding attire, and like, coming dressed, the way that your lady visioned for you to come dress. And so, taking the time out to have a style for yourself during this time. Like, what do you like? You can't go everywhere in basketball shorts and jeans. I mean, you can, but is your lady going to be okay with that? So, the lady that you're going to be marrying someday. And so you have to start honing in on your style and dressing for different events, including the wedding events that you will be having eventually. So this is a time to do that. It's also a time to research the groom's preparatory things. So what is it that the groom needs to be doing? We're obviously going to be discussing that over here, because I'm going to be giving you some wedding planning advice. This is all about wedding planning advice from me, your content creator. And I've been to tons of weddings, guys. I've been to tons of weddings, and I've known tons of married people. And that's why I'm doing all of this collectively and just sharing my life journey and advice with you. Like I said, you don't have to take any of it. You can be like, oh my gosh, content creator, you're crazy. Like, I'm not doing any of this. Like, I don't think that, like, this is important for my marriage. I just want you to hurry up and get to being, engaged and talking about the engagement photos and all this stuff. And we will. I'll be giving you advice on all of that too. But right now, we are not there. This is a 1-year series, and we are not there yet. Okay, but we will get there quickly, because this portion that I'm talking about, to me, even though it's the most important portion of planning your wedding, it's going to be like such a small little amount in comparison to the rest of what we're going to be discussing. Like if you had 12 slices of a pie, this is literally only one slice of the pie that we're talking about preparing before he proposes. The 11 slices are going to be all about the stuff that happens during the engagement leading up to the wedding day and all the wedding series of events. So stick with me, guys. This actually is the core good stuff. I know it doesn't seem like, but it is. Okay. You're also going to be learning about budgeting and working with vendors. So don't just leave this all to the bride to be about how to work with vendors, how to schedule things with them, how to talk with them. You know what I was talking about? Like getting your own, maintenance people and them to do your plumbing and your house and your roof and all this stuff, maintenance. That's working with people that you don't see every day, right? So those are also similar to vendors for your wedding. Like the plumber is similar to the florist. Okay, I'm just giving an example. Obviously, a florist is not a plumber is not a florist, but I'm just giving an example of like vendors, right? People that like you give money to, that you want them to then go ahead and make something happen. All right. So start learning how to speak to people, learning how to get budget prices from people, like budgeting and like pricing and stuff like that from these vendors. Okay. Learning how to have an open communication with them. Not everybody is going to speak the same way that you do, and they're not gonna, you're gonna be talking to them and you're gonna be like, what are they saying? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask, like, well, can you give me an itemized list for this or for that, so that you can see the breakdown of what they're charging you for. Don't just be taken for your money. Just don't do that. Okay. Don't do that. Learn how to negotiate. The next is going to be building a vision for marriage. So you want to take the time out to think about, what is it that you want out of marriage? The idea of children can be scary to some people, but to some people, they've been waiting for this their entire life and they can't wait to have kids, right? I love kids so much. I love them. I love them. I love them. And they're such a blessing and they're so amazing. But not everybody feels that way, right? Not everybody feels that way. And so you want to be thinking about, like, do you want 2 kids? Do you want, 5 kids? Do you want 12 kids? This could change, obviously, but at least you're starting to think about what it is that you want in a marriage, what it is that you want in your wife. Do you want her to be a stay-at-home wife? Do you want her to work and help you with so many of the financials that is today? Today is so much financial burden on all of us. It's not the same as when our parents grew up in this world, or especially not the same when our grandma and grandpa grew up in this world. It's a different world. It's not the same. And so maybe you both have to work, so then you have to be thinking, well, who's going to take care of your children while you're working? Who do you want to take care of them? Do you want it to be a niece that you trust or a nephew that you trust? Do you want it to be a nursery school? Do you want it to be a private school? Are you ready and prepared to pay for those kind of finances? Be thinking of these things. Like, think about the little stuff, like, oh, I want my wife to make me breakfast every Saturday and I want her to make a big brunch after church on Sunday. Think about these things, because then you can talk about them with her and you can be like, hey, oh my goodness, like when you guys meet and you get to know each other and stuff, you start talking about like your vision for marriage. And maybe she's like, no, like I don't cook, like I don't do any of that. And so now you know that. And then you don't have to, you can say, okay, am I willing to live with that? Maybe I'm going to take some more cooking courses and I'm going to learn how to cook better, or whatever it is. Or maybe you go to your parents' house on Saturday and Sunday and like, allow your mom to cook breakfast for you guys and brunch on Sundays. I don't know. But the point is that in this phase, you are thinking about all that good stuff, okay? Let's see. Discuss ideas with your mentors. Oh yes, I remember putting this note down. And other people that are like married couples and stuff. So make sure that you're discussing a lot of these like ideas for marriage and stuff like that. We talked a little bit about it before, how you're observing those people around you, but now that you are in like more of this phase of like adulthood between 18 to 22 or so before you get proposed to, and some people may like already get proposed to at 18. Everyone's on a different path, right? Everyone's on a different stage. So some people might get proposed to at 18, and so they're going to put all of this planning in accordance to that for them. And so you're going to be observing these people around you, but now you're also going to be asking questions. You're going to be discussing more because now you're an adult, and like you should be able to have an open communication with them, and you should be comfortable around these people. These are people that are going to be like your mentors for like your marriage and for your wedding and things like that. You know, you'll get to talk to them, and later on, guess what, you're going to be a mentor for somebody else. You're going to be a role model for somebody else, because you're going to be like, okay, these are the things that I learned and that they could have went a lot better, and these are the things that worked out so well for us, and I'm excited to share those with you, you know. So just remember that. You want to also deepen deepen your understanding of faith. I want to also talk about deepening your understanding of love. So, as you know, we talked about your faith in the prior video, so we're not going to belabor that very long, but remembering to have a foundation. And then we want to move on to deepening your love. And that is knowing how to love somebody else that's not you. Learning what that means. You know, it's patience, it's kind. We talked about being a good listener. Not everybody walks in these things. And so this is your time in your life to start building that up, to start becoming better. Okay? To start becoming better. Asking people questions about love. How do they feel about love? You can just go around talking to people about love and like watch them light up. Watch them light up. I'm telling you. And if you're talking to people who don't, maybe you don't want to be talking to them anymore about this, about love, right? About love. So in our little recap here, guys, the whole purpose of me giving this advice is so that you can become stronger. You can become better before you get to the proposal, the engagement. Now, I know everyone's excited about the proposal and about the engagement. You've been waiting for it. You can't wait to have that wedding. You can't wait to be married, right? But there's some things to prepare for before we get there. And I'm doing this also so that people will also take the time out to ask me questions. If you have questions about any of the topics that we're talking about, ask them. Don't just look at this and just take it all in and that's it, and feel like you have a lot of questions and you don't know where to ask them. I'm here. Hello. Ask me the questions. I'm excited to answer them. And just know that you guys, this is going to be a year. This is going to be a year long. This is going to be a year-long journey of you getting to hang out with me and to learn so much about the wedding planning process. But we're doing it from the beginning. We're doing it from the beginning. There's no right and wrong way to do it, but we're doing it from the beginning. We started with 14-year-old you, and now we are at like, you know, young adult, like 18 to 22, somewhere in there, year-old you. And so, yeah, we'll be fast forwarding to when you get engaged soon as well. Okay. But right now we're still in this part. Later from here, we're going to go to, I believe, dating for marriage. So that's going to be spicy. So we're not yet at the engagement yet, but I think we'll be moving on to dating for marriage pretty soon here. So, all right, you guys, I will see you in our next episode. Bye.
Lights, camera, action, baby, strike a pose. Phones and cameras out, just watch it all unfold. We're the stars of the show, ain't no need for filters, living life through the lens, capturing our thrills. Put away your phones and cameras, let the good times roll. Our content creators got it all under control. From weddings to events, parties, travel and brands, we're living the paparazzi life. It's all in our hands.
Lights, camera, action, we're ready to go. We're professionals, don't you already know? From TikTok to Instagram, we're taking the lead. Content creator, we're planting seed. Get ready for the social media explosion.